Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the ThePackHub's Brand Owner and Retailer Summit webinar series. Good afternoon to you. I hope you're all very well. My name is Paul Jenkins. I'm Managing Director of UK Packaging Innovation Consultancy, ThePackHub. We're just starting this Brand Owner and Retailer Summit webinar series. A few of you will be aware that we didn't intend to have a face-to-face packaging seminar a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, global pandemic circumstances has prevented us from doing that. So we thought we'd try and bring the event People Alive through a series of 4 webinar events. We've got 3 fantastic speakers lined up for you today with a wealth of knowledge and experience. First up to speak in a moment is Kostas Papakonomou, who is co-founder at Happen, a creative innovation agency. He has helped many of the biggest brands in the world, and what he doesn't know about innovation isn't worth knowing. We've also got Louisa Burns-Barreto, who is Marketing Development and Partnerships for Circular Economy at Braskem, who are the world's leading biopolymers producer. And last but not least, we've got Horst Bitterman, who is Head of Marketing at Meyer Melnhof Carton. As well as that, he's also President of Carton and Carton Board Manufacturers, Pro Carton, and a real packaging industry big hitter. So delighted to have such 3 esteemed speakers for us today. So what we'll cover in the next 55 minutes or so is just a little bit about the ThePackHub, and then we've got our 3 speakers. Kostas will be talking about anti-fragile innovation in fragile times. Louisa will be talking about sustainable development towards a low-carbon circular economy. And finally, Horst's presentation will be about sustainable packaging solutions. We do have some time allocated for some questions and answers at the end of the session, so please, there's opportunity for you all to put some questions in the box as part of the webinar. So please put your questions in, and we'll collate them and get them answered at the end. You'll also get a link to the webinar recording post-event. So a little bit about the ThePackHub. For those that don't know us, we're a leading UK packaging innovation consultancy. We've been going for 8 years now. We offer technical support and project management, packaging events, and now webinars. What I didn't say actually is the plan is for the Brand Owner and Retailer Summit live physical event face to face. We do plan for that to go ahead as soon as we're permitted to do social distancing or lack of social distancing in the future. So that will go ahead at some point in the next few months, fingers crossed. We also do reports. Our most recent one has been Sustainable Packaging Compendium 2020. And last but not least, we have a lot of insight and trends. Really at the epicenter of that is the Innovation Zone, which is a circular and easy to use innovation database with 4,000 packaging innovations uploaded, 20 new innovations a week. So that's the backup. So first up is Kostas. Kostas, are you able to share your screen?
I will, but I think you need to unshare yours first. Okay. Let's see, share screen, there we go. And thank you very much.
Sorry, Kostas, have you practiced how to say your surname all week?
That was fantastic. To be honest, I don't even know myself how to pronounce my surname, but I do have to correct you on one other thing, which is I for sure do not know everything about innovation. That's also one of the reasons to coming to your events and your webinars now, because I always walk away having learned something new. But thank you for the kind words. Yes, so we have, 15 minutes or so on this particular topic. So yes. Anti-fragile innovation in fragile times. I'll just dive straight in, if that's okay, Paul. A nice, happy picture to set the scene. Maybe just a little bit on Happen. We are indeed an innovation agency, and maybe just To add to that, working almost exclusively in consumer goods, be it in food, in beverage, in household products, basically whatever is sold through grocery and say drugstore channel. That's kind of our heartland. Since October of last year, we're part of Accenture, which comes with all kinds of interesting benefits, which as a consequence of which, I'm going to hand out presents at the end of this presentation. And it's not going to be pens and paper clips, but I'll get to that in a moment. Just even having looked at the briefly at the people joining on this call, shame we don't have webcams, etc., that I cannot see you. But what I've noticed is what I saw was quite a few of you are from backgrounds in categories or even some of the companies we work with very often. And this is our world. This is a world of consumer products. So without exception, these are all very mature categories, very difficult categories typically to innovate in, because you could say everything that was worth inventing has already been invented there. And it's all about sort of staying up to speed with what are the new needs opening up, what are the unmet needs that simply didn't exist shortly before. I guess what has been interesting over the past couple of years actually is that these categories have also been changing, which hasn't been easy given so many of them are so old and so well established. And the types of things that have changed, and let me just put a few on screen. And this is a slide from, funnily enough, from about 6 months ago, maybe a bit longer. But this was daily reality for a long time. That's basically every single bit of fixed information all of a sudden seemed to move. Category definitions were moving, foods became beverages, became health products. Are you in pharmacy, or are you in health, or are you indeed in healthy biscuits? The definition of the consumer target changed. It used to be very easy. You just focus on the nuclear family, 2 parents, 2 children, typically a boy and a girl, but all that has changed as well. I mean, now there are many single households, parents of the same gender, etc. Where you get your information from has changed. How you create ideas has changed. The competitive landscape has changed. I mean, it's pretty much incredible. How you knew you were on the right track has changed. Validation doesn't happen anymore. It used to. Regulation is changing. Distribution is changing. If anything, this is also why we were in business and why we are in business, is to help navigate all this. Now, what has changed even more over the past, well, recent, let's say no more than about 18 months, seriously, is some other things. This lady has come along, making everyone feel bad, sitting on this side of the fence, all of a sudden making us realize that actually some of the things we take for granted are maybe not really the right things to do. And how do you bring a sustainability agenda into practice, and how do you do it in a way that you actually get some credit for it? Because if anything, we've seen a lot of our clients spend a lot of time and effort on becoming better at this, and still being, let's say, shamed in the media. And well, no one will not have noticed this, but that came on top as well, the Corona crisis, which of course is something unique in a way, as that it's the same for everyone everywhere almost. And this just makes our lives even more difficult as innovators, as businesses trying to basically make work categories that we thought we knew really well and that we knew what the rules were. And I guess the feeling that, well, I have to a degree myself, but I've definitely seen across many and many of the teams we work with, is that they feel quite fragile for many reasons, personally, but particularly the business context. Things were just not what they used to be. And change is coming much faster than they maybe anticipate or that they initiate themselves. And here's the thing about fragile. It's an interesting word, because what it effectively means is change in the environment is bad. And if it changes too quickly, you break. And as a response to that, the type of language I've been hearing a lot recently, sort of as in, what do we need to become? It's usually different variations of this word: being robust, being stronger, being more solid. And what is interesting, I guess, is that that is actually not the opposite of fragile. Being very robust, it's like describing a lighthouse in a storm where just the waves crash up to the lighthouse and it doesn't respond. What it actually says very often is you're no longer interacting with the environment and you're putting yourself outside of that place where you used to be fragile. I think a much more interesting word, which was originally coined by Nassim Taleb a couple of years ago, is anti-fragile. And anti-fragile is, even just the word itself already starts triggering sort of, oh, what could that mean? Well, actually what it means in essence is, it means you're welcoming change, and the change in the environment is good for you. And if you start thinking about it, if you're not familiar with that term yet, what you realize is it's a very real thing in the world around us. So just taking some examples here. So looking at things that are known as being fragile, things like glassware, of course, but also 3-year planning. I mean, how many of you create the 3-year plans and then throw them out the window after 6 months and rewrite them a year later? The European Union is quite fragile at the moment. Uber, I mean, that has always been heralded in my world as, oh, isn't it amazing what they've been doing, etc. Well, honestly, it's a Ponzi scheme because they lose $1 billion every quarter. So just a little bit of regulatory change, and that is going to fall over. I'll get to the gentleman running there, and maybe, yeah, as a little game, difficult to do in a webinar where we're not interacting, but I'll give you 10 points now if you know who that person on the bottom right is there. Presuming you don't, because his name is Mons Selmerlo, and he won the Eurovision Song Festival a couple of years ago in front of 500 million people. And about a week later, no one knew who he was anymore. So fame, to a degree, can also be fragile. Now, if you look at things that are anti-fragile, you get a very, very different picture. The light bulb there stands for creativity. I mean, try to be creative without changing the setting around you. Very difficult. Actually, creativity thrives when things change. Well, the kind lady Madonna, she's like the Terminator. I mean, every time the environment and the music industry change, she probably changes with it and then supersedes it. Switzerland, and I'm sure some of you thought, seeing the EU, that I would put the UK flag here. Well, the UK flag is even more fragile probably than the EU one. Switzerland is going to outlive the EU for sure. They're local, they're much smaller organized, and actually cause and effect sit very close to each other. That bacteria there has nothing to do with COVID, which of course is a virus, but bacteria grow stronger the more penicillin you put on it, and they become resistant. The gentleman running there for sure will run out of a say burning building faster than the person who only trains on that device. And well, to the bottom right, Mr. Trump, well, love him or hate him, but the more stress you put on him, the stronger he becomes, and the more muck is thrown on him, basically, it just doesn't stick. He is anti-fragile. And what is an interesting way of sort of looking at how these two worlds are different and how you can start thinking about how you go about business differently is what their characteristics are. On the fragile side, it's all about trying to predict what's coming in the future because change is dangerous. If it's at the anti-fragile side, well, actually failure is great because it means you learn something. You welcome change. The change will strengthen you. And in a way, an innovation function in a business is that capability to deal with a changing environment and making sure it lands. So let's look at that creativity one from a point of innovation first. So the one thing to really, and this is, you'll have to take my word for this, because the one thing innovation, the problem is not, let's say, is creativity. It's easy for teams and any client of ours to become creative. That's not the challenge. The challenge is something different, which is that the innovation world and the operational world are two different spaces. The operational world being let's say, the part of the business, which is most of it where the money is made. This is where you press a button and a product comes rolling out off a manufacturing line. This is where you create invoices for clients. This is where basically the day-to-day business sits. The innovation world is a very different one. It doesn't, basically, you press a button and you don't know what comes out. It's a world of experimentation. It's where things could actually go wrong. And it's definitely not the place where money is made yet. But those two need to interact. And that's really the challenge that you need to overcome. Now, just to give you a picture of how different those two worlds are. So on the left here, a gentleman called Frans Reichelt, who was he was basically taking the photograph right before he was about to jump off the Eiffel Tower to test his wingsuit. And on the right here, this is what could have been the pilot of the last flight I took back in February before lockdown. They live in very different worlds. I mean, I don't want my pilot on the airline to basically imagine every time he lands which approach he'll take this time, and to speculate around that and just try a couple of things. I want him solidly locked in regulation. But you can see how those two worlds are different. One is about going somewhere new, and the other is making sure whatever you came up with is actually generating business for you. Now, if you're wondering what happened, here's a video of Mr. Reichel jumping. That went very quick. It might be your internet speed didn't capture that. Let me play it again for you. Oh, there we go. And this is, I guess, one problem with innovation is that it's dangerous. Now, likely none of us will very easily get killed in our innovation work, like this gentleman did, but it's dangerous. And that's why those two worlds need to be basically brought together in a managed way, because whatever your innovation team comes up with isn't necessarily the right thing for the business. So we spent basically a career looking for how do you connect those two worlds, and here are basically the things you need to do. On the left, reading from left to right, you need to understand why you're innovating. What's the business objective behind that initiative? Once you understand indeed the reason why, and even that is not a question many of our clients ask well enough, but once you have answered that, what are actual consumer insights you can act upon? Not general truths, not trends, not things high up in the stratosphere. What are things that actually tell you how your product can be performing better in the market you're servicing? How do you create commercially viable solutions? So not just any idea, but stuff you can actually make money on. Again, very much more difficult than very often thought. And then how do you actually energize the business to do something? And funnily enough, if you would leave any one of those out, you get to the reasons why innovation fails so often. You do the wrong things, create stuff no one wants, products that are just way too expensive, or nothing happens at all. And that's what we're trying to bridge. Now, making that, basically to round up this story, now making the bridge to anti-fragility. And that's all about how do you play the numbers game, really. That's what it comes down to. And if you would look at any number of ideas that your business can create, that would be basically the innovations you take to market, there are effectively two ways of looking at that pool of ideas. Sadly, you can already be guaranteed that not all of them will work. That's just the reality. Let's say if you're doing it well, that more than half succeed. Now, here's the thing. If you insist on doing them one by one, which is basically the fewer, bigger, better approach that still many of our clients say celebrate, then effectively you're putting all your eggs, being the only egg, in one basket all the time. And what works once might work a second time, but if all that then goes down the tubes the third time, then effectively you're empty-handed and maybe even in danger. The trick here really is to look at innovation and idea creation as more like a portfolio, like a venture capitalist would do, and making sure that you're placing your bets widely and you're spreading them. And what that means is you need to make sure that when they succeed big. So let me just put that on a very simple chart, as also where I'd like to land, basically, is here's how basically the mechanic you need to keep in mind. So if I look at a fragile model, sort of the old school way of looking at innovation resources is usually if you spend a little money, the idea is you'll gain a little money. So a small innovation will make you a small amount of money in market. If I want a big innovation that's going to deliver huge revenues in market, I need to run huge risks to do that. I need to invest a lot in the factory, a lot in communication, and a lot just getting that thing to work. Now, the anti-fragile model is actually different. So what you're saying, I'm never going to spend a lot. I'm only going to spend small amounts of money. But what I spend them on, I need to make sure that if they succeed in a way which is easily scalable, which could be potentially huge. Now, that sounds obvious. And for those of you on the call who have incubation programs running in the business, I would say, well, dare you to have a close look at some of those initiatives that you're investing small amounts of money in. Typically is, are you really playing a potentially big game? Because what we see often happen is that there are a lot of small scattered initiatives being started, but even if those initiatives would be super successful and would do absolutely everything they potentially could, they would still be very, very small in the scheme of what the mothership is actually working on or interested in. And that's really the balance you need to find, is only invest those small amounts of money even in things that could potentially explode and become absolutely huge. Now, that's kind of the little story I wanted to tell. I just want to make you aware, and this is the gift I have, the gift from, in this case, the Accenture mothership that we're part of. And one of the great benefits of being in a great big business like this is there are like 24 people working nonstop on tracking what's going along with what's happening around COVID. And they're looking at every possible category you can imagine, including food and beverage. There's an open source portal available, and I think, well, many of the teams who are on the call now, you are actually, maybe without even knowing, client of Accenture. Get in touch with me, and I'll show you. I'll basically point you the way to where to look. I can share heaps of interesting data on every possible angle into this problem and what's going on in your category. from what you could do right now to sort of deal with the issues coming literally into the market, but also how you can look a little bit forward into maybe other markets you're operating in within, say, the particular category you operate in, and to give some well-meant, hopefully a little bit solicited advice on how you can make sure that you come through this this COVID period as unscathed as possible. And that's it. Thank you very much. I will stop sharing my screen so we can move on to the next speaker.
Kostas, that was excellent. Thank you very much. I will ensure that as part of the webinar outputs that, that everyone's got a link to be able to see that.
Absolutely, and you have the PDF of this little presentation, so please share. And
yep,
everyone on the call, get in touch if you'd like to hear more.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Kostas. Louisa, are you able to share your screen, please?
Yes, I am doing that right now. Just trying to cope with my mouse here. Let me know if you are
perfect
seeing. Yeah, may
yes.
I go ahead?
Over to you. Great.
Yeah, great. Well, actually, thanks, Kostas. You set it up the expectations super high. Great presentation. Lots of insights. Well, I am here today to present a little bit of Braskem initiatives on a sustainable development towards low carbon circular economy. I hope you enjoy. Yeah, starting with a brief overview from Braskem for the ones that don't know us. We are we are producing chemicals and polyolefins, and our core business activities are focused on mainly on the first and second generations. And here, during listening to Kostas' presentation, I would like to refer that we are actually living in a changing world. And in order to change and to move from a linear to a circular economy, we understood that we have to establish partnerships along the value chain in order to make sure that we combine our strengths and that we are able to accelerate the transition towards circular economy. And we believe strongly that the transition will only be successful if the companies and the partners and the players in the value chain, they are really engaged and committed to this change. We have 41 production facilities around the world, located in Brazil, Mexico, US, and in Germany. And we are having commercial operations in over 100 countries. We count with 3 innovation and technology centers that are focused on providing customer support and on developing new products through research and development. And we also have dedicated teams working with circular economy in Brazil, in the US, and in Germany. Some of the numbers were already mentioned, but we are more than 7,000 people focused on this business. And in 2019, we brought an EBITDA of $1.5 billion, a net revenue of $13 billion. And as Kostas also mentioned, innovation needs investment, and we also invested $17 million in innovation last year in order to be able to increase and generate the products of the future. Before commenting on our sustainable strategy, I'd like to share a couple of facts with you that you may be familiar, but I thought it was worth to share here. Did you know that we consume 50% more than what our planet is currently capable of really delivering, producing, absorbing, and regenerating? That 16% of world's population consumes 78% of its resources. It reminds me of the Pareto rules. That the production of industrial materials is estimated to reach 649 billion tons of CO2 emissions by the year of 2100. And just as a reference here, the estimated carbon emission budget that we have to keep global warming temperatures increasing in a maximum of 1.5 degrees Celsius is 500 billion tons of CO2 emissions for both production and energy. So really needs to take care here. And last but not least, only 14% of the global plastic packaging is being currently recycled, and 35% of what comes into the economy ends up leaking into the environment. I thought it was worth to bring those facts just to reinforce the importance and the urgency for action. So our low carbon circular economy approach is bringing the implementation of a low carbon economy by optimizing industrial efficiency in regards to resource consumption like energy and water, and by focusing on the development of low carbon emission products. We are also focusing on working with the public by stimulating consumer engagement, education, and increased awareness of the value of plastic. We are also engaging responsibly for the development of policies that are looking and combining economic growth with environmental preservation. And last but not least, we are also investing and collaborating along the value chain to move forward from this take, make, dispose economy in the direction of closing the loops. And we are also very committed to reach together with the industry the 100% plastic packaging to be reused, recycled, and recovered by 2040. In order to achieve those goals, we develop sustainable products and solutions. So just touching point a little bit of our circular solutions, our I'm Green bio-based materials, they are dropping solutions to the current fossil alternatives. They can be transformed into using conventional conversion processes like blow molding, injection molding, and extrusion. Those materials, they are generally being able to be applied in applications that require food contact compliance. And due to the fact that they capture CO2 from the environment, they are actually tackling climate change aspects. Our I'm Green recycled materials, they are being developed to have a content of recycled product in it. They are also being developed to be applied or to be used in current conversion technologies, and those solutions by using the as a feedstock, as a raw material, waste plastic, they are avoiding those materials to become waste and eventually to leak, and therefore they are tackling circularity. And we are also introducing what I'm Green bio-based and recycled materials, which are a combination of recycled and bio-based, have a combination of recycled and bio-based contents. And they are focusing on delivering a solution with a carbon neutral footprint that is, at the end of the day, tackling both aspects, circularity and climate change. Going a little bit deeper in the loop of our I'm Green bio-based materials, everything starts with the sugarcane crops where CO2 is being captured from the environment. The juice and the bagasse of the sugarcane, they are being used for the production of ethanol and renewable energy. This ethanol is dehydrated into ethylene and then being fed into our polymerization plants for the production of polymers. Every ton of green polyethylene is absorbing up to 3 tons of CO2 equivalent. And if we take into consideration the production of 200,000 tons of green polyethylene per year, we can say that approximately 6 million tons of CO2 emissions are being avoided to enter into the atmosphere. To bring a little bit of life to our product families, I would like to share a couple of examples where our the I'm Green bio-based material is being used. Here in Europe, some examples, Tetra Pak is using those products to produce caps for their beverage packagings. Lego is using those materials for the production of some toys, and I think it's a nice example that brings a little bit of education in the background. Join the Pipe is also a company that is using green web-base to produce reusable water bottles, and they can be refilled. And therefore, we are here tackling some of the principles also, that it's reusing and avoiding an increased amount of waste generation. In Asia, we have also a couple of examples. For example, Shiseido is using green bio-based to produce some stand-up pouch structures for their personal care products. Takeda is producing some rigid packaging for pharma products, and Ajinomoto, I think it's also a known brand that it's using green to produce cap for their flavor enhancers packaging. In South America, we have Unilever producing rigid pack for their Omo liquid detergent. Johnson & Johnson is also making use of green bio-based to produce rigid packaging for Sundown, the sunscreen. And Kimberly-Clark has been using our green to produce the toilet paper packaging for their Navy brand. North America, it's also in the game. Aveda has been producing some flexible tubes with renewable content for their personal care packaging. Acredo is also using our green to produce some shrink packaging as a secondary packaging for beverages. And we also have the pet food industry using green to the production of multi-layer packaging. As an example, only Natural Pet is also doing that. I took the opportunity to bring a couple of examples from different regions in the world to also show that climate change is actually a global issue. And we understand that using renewable products or making sure that you are implementing a circular economy, I think it's a way to address part of the solution. A couple of examples, and I will not take long to go through them. Green recycled is being used for the production of some chairs or flower pots, or secondary packaging of feminine care products from Sempre Livre. It's the brand, and the combination of bio-based and recycled materials can also be applied for the production of tubes or for the production of some shrink films as well. Last but not least, I would like to mention that design for recyclability is also a pillar that we look into and take into consideration our strategy. And an example I would like to mention here, it was the development of 100% polyethylene stand-up pouch. So it's a monomaterial stand-up pouch that was developed in partnership with a company called Antillas in Brazil. So it's also a very nice solution that we developed together in partnership. We also believe that, well, mechanical recycling will not be there alone solving all the issues, and it will not be enough to reach all the different targets that are being set, either voluntarily from the brands or by the different, or that are being established by the different government bodies. And therefore, we believe that chemical recycling, or the development of chemical recycling, is also coming to complement and to address the different challenges that cannot be solved so easily by mechanical recycling. And therefore, we are also investing time and effort in research and development to improve both technologies and the outcome of those materials. I need to speed up. I'm running out of time. But here is just to mention that we are not only focused on developing sustainable solutions for polyolefins, but we are also investing some efforts to foster greener and more efficient processes, like the one that we have developed together with Haldor Topsoe for the development of a green monoethylene glycol, which is one of the monomers being used for the production of PET. Promoting some solutions for the society by collaborating across the value chain. Those are some of the projects that we have been doing and promoting to make sure and together consumer engagement, conscious consumption. I would just explain quickly the Surplus, which is a project that we have been running in Brazil that is supporting the cooperatives that work on the waste picking part of in Brazil in very poor areas. And we have been supporting them to improve their collection, to improve their working conditions and the efficiency of this step on collecting the waste and avoiding that it will end up being landfilled. So bringing my 15 minutes talk to an end, I would like to reinforce our commitment on reducing plastic waste and mitigating climate change by developing sustainable solutions in partnership with the players along the chain. So we are looking forward to moving society, economy, and the environment forward, and we are looking forward to do that together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Louisa. That was extremely interesting. We do have a couple of questions which we'll cover after Horst's presentation. So, Horst, are you able to share your screen, please? Here we go. The floor is yours, Horst.
Thank you. Wonderful. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank Kostas on the one hand because he covers my part of job when it comes to marketing and innovation within Mayr-Melnhof of carton. And he also showed one product of us, which is a natural carton board used for biopasta from Barilla, which is a great product, by the way. Secondly, I want to thank also Louisa, who covered the other part of my job, which is standing in for the interests of the folding carton and cartonboard producer industry in Europe as president of Bocarton, to say and to discuss and to market that cartonboard is a real proven circular economy model, which is not only biodegradable, renewable, but it's also really recycled to an extent of 85%. In Europe, and it's also biodegradable, which also helps not leaving scars in the environment. Before I start, I want to be quite quick. It's a quite hands-on presentation, with a lot of examples showing successful substitution of non-sustainable packaging material. But I'm also very much engaged in the new regulation, Single-Use Plastic Directive and Packaging Waste Directive, working directly with the Enomia, which is the consultant of the EU, and therefore I can give you a little bit of insight if you want to do that. What is sustainable use packaging? What means plastic at all? Because that's not clear in terms of definition, and what are the essential requirements in the Plastic Waste Directive, and how will be the next stage of this regulation, which might help as well. A few words about MMK. MM Carton has two bodies. The one is producing, we are the bigger producer of carton board in Europe, and also the biggest producer of folding carton in Europe. You see 1.7 million tons of carton board, and 800,000 tons are processed by packaging. We are number one when it comes to recycled carton board in Europe, number three when it comes to virgin, and number one when it comes to white top coated recycled liner, which is mainly used for microfluid packaging. We have quite a lot.
Sorry, Horst. Can you screen? You've got your next slide showing on this currently. Are you able to?
Okay, then let's do it differently.
Apologies for.
Okay, then I have to share the other screen. Wait a little bit. Okay. Then the screen is not the correct one. So now you should only see one slide. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, although you need to go into presentation mode, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see one slide now?
Yes, although we see your slides. It's not in presentation mode yet. Yes, that's it.
That's interesting. And now?
Now we see your desktop.
That's really interesting. Sorry for that once again.
It worked during the trial.
Version 1, version 2.
That's your Internet Explorer.
So what do you see now?
Perfect. Carry on.
Okay, good. Yeah, basically, and I stop here, we are very big. We are the biggest one, and we have one goal, meaning 20% of all our products have been innovated in the last 5 years. If we do that ongoing, we know that we are successful. Good. That's the portfolio where you can see recycled fiber-based, virgin fiber-based, white top coated recycled liner and food board, which is basically a board with a migration barrier against unintended substances, especially done for food products like cereals, tea, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And the second thing, which is very important for us, is this natural trend, this organic trend, which is not too new in the market, but it comes now also to packaging, which is great. And we'll always try to have, on the one hand, and you see that on the left side, a recycled portfolio, as well as on the right side, a virgin fiber-based portfolio, because it's up to our customers to choose if they are either going for recycled carton board or for virgin carton board, depending on their sustainability goals and the future rollout of what they want to do. The second thing, which is very important, is to have barriers which are recyclable and which are biodegradable at the end of the day. We know that most of the packaging is anyway collected in Europe, as I said already, 85%, but nevertheless, if something is leaked in the environment, it should disappear quite quick in a few weeks. Therefore, all these barrier products are recyclable and biodegradable. As I said, Luise already made the scene here for a proven model of a circular economy, and that's carton board. And you know that if you would count the carbon sequestration of the forest which is used by carton board, then we would even be carbon negative. But I think that's not worth to say, because every production needs energy, and negative carbon emissions are something for marketing only, and I think that's not wise to shout that loud, because the consumer will anyway not allow us to say that, and they will never believe that. Now only some examples where you can see where we changed unsustainable packaging, like here polystyrol packaging, which is not allowed anyway next year and the year onwards in the European Communion. And then on the right hand side you have two examples, one on recycled board, that's top color, which is also used in the UK. Therefore, if you buy a burger in the UK, it's this board, and in Italy and Russia, it's excellent top. Second example also from McDonald's is this brown packaging, which is a great example, especially in the UK, because McDonald's is saving now about 500 tons of plastics because they replaced the salad bowl with a cardboard box with brown color, which is also a recycled fiber-based cardboard. Therefore, here you can see quite good examples how you can replace unsustainable packaging with sustainable packaging, meaning it's first of all recyclable, and secondly it disappears in the environment quite quickly. Party plates, same as polystyrol packaging, it has to disappear. Plastic packaging has to disappear 2021, and there are quite a lot of examples where these plates are used now, paperboard on a brown basis or on a white basis, it doesn't matter. Everything is available. Fruit and vegetables, very important topic. You all know that retailers are using the fresh angle. If you enter a high-end retailer, you first see fruit and vegetables. And the fruit and vegetables giving you the impression of high quality products in this supermarket. That's the old concept, which is done more or less by any and each big high-end retailer in anywhere in the world. Now, in the last few years, they have started to have huge problems because if you enter the supermarket, if you see packaging, which is plastic packaging for fruit and vegetables, everybody starts to think, why is fruit and vegetables packed in plastic and not unpacked or packed in other sustainable materials? Therefore, they're losing the advantage of this fresh appearance at the beginning, and therefore they're quite keen to change as quick as possible the fruit and vegetable packaging in the supermarkets. Therefore, there are a lot of examples, whatever product that is, if it's mango, if it's grapes, if it's avocados, you can find quite a lot of examples already which are placed in the market. Here are strawberries, and you see this is really a different look and feel for the customer if he gets the product in that way. Another example is frozen food. Frozen food is or has been mainly packed in cardboard, in plastic pouches, or in cardboard laminated with PE on the reverse side. That can be replaced now by a cardboard with a free squeeze barrier for the same products without any problem. Yeah. Here you see an example, a young seafood in the UK. Another thing is plastic wrapping for tea. That is there because it should avoid air impairment. It should avoid that, first of all, the tea is losing its taint throughout the packaging, and secondly, the taint of the packaging doesn't go out to other tea, because if that would happen, every tea would taste like peppermint tea if it's next to peppermint tea. Therefore, air impermeability of the packaging is very important. And here also food board has the same air impermeability as the currently used plastic wrapping. Therefore, you first of all can preserve and protect tea against unintended substances like mineral oils with a migration barrier, and secondly, you can get rid of the plastic wraparound and have a sustainable image on the shelf for the consumer. Other example of the UK where plastic is reduced, which is border biscuits. Here, basically, see it's only a rework of the design, and therefore you can reduce plastic in a quite big extent. Another example here, Kellogg's. I was not aware, maybe you have been aware, that's Russia. The Kellogg's is also producing cookies, And here you see in Russia, they have changed the plastic flow pack to a cardboard box, which looks much nicer, and was a very big, or is still a very big success in Russia. Another example is soap. Unilever was already on some slides. Unilever is changing the Dove soap, which is a double side PE coated, to a fungicide treatment on the reverse side of cartonboard, which is very important because double side PE coated material is not recyclable at all, and therefore they have to change that anyway in the future due to the new legislation. There are another examples for this is Tesa, for example, in Germany, where now plastic is subsidized by cartonboard. Another example is toothbrush, where you can see the standard on the left side. You have the standard plastic packaging. On the right-hand side, you have a very natural packaging, which is made out of, in this case, of a virgin cartonboard. These are quite excellent examples. Alpengummi is an example where the chewing gum is made out of really out of the nature. In this case, out of the forest, and also the packaging is nature. Therefore, everything is nature here, and not plastic in the product and in the packaging anymore. And here, Cold Cafe, which is an interesting story. It's a small producer, but the producer says quite clearly, coffee can hold its full taste only for a couple of weeks. He said 15 weeks. Then, however it is packed or protected, it's losing its taste over a period of 2 years. Therefore, it doesn't make any sense to have a alu pack or whatever around the coffee, but you can simply pack it in cartonboard and the effect will be the same. The coffee will lose within 15 will keep the full flavor within 15 weeks, and then it's losing out over the next 2 years. Therefore, sometimes it's not only thinking about sustainability, but also thinking about old opinions of some people, what they need in terms of to protect the food. But sometimes you simply ask different questions and you come to a solution which is then really sustainable and much cheaper, of course, as well. Here you have again one example with food board, and you see here on the right hand side, it's the first time that a carton board is really a brand, because food board is printed on some boxes already in some countries, simply to show the customer that the food is protected as much as possible, and to also show to the local authorities that they must not test the food against unintended substances because it's fully protected by this migration board. So that's all. I think I'm in time. I'm looking forward to your questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. All three speakers spot on in terms of timing, so that is really, really appreciated. We have time for probably one question for each speaker. Any unanswered questions, we will try and get them answered as part of the webinar outputs. The first question to Costas, how do you think the innovation process will change post-COVID-19? Is that an easy question or quick question to answer, but could you give some thoughts on that, Costas, please?
I guess the innovation process, or there are as many processes as there are companies. I suspect at least for the next 6 months to possibly 2 years, we'll just see an increased focus on core innovation, and then maybe the slightly more ambitious projects just being, given they tend to be quite risky, being pushed back a little. That's just a suspicion I have. Maybe one thing to add, core innovation that sounds like just doing simple small things, which like I don't know, like a new flavor or a pack tweak. I think the businesses that do it well will manage to do it around changed behaviors because of COVID. And of course, in food and beverage, this is like across the board. I think we'll see a renaissance of home cooking, for example. So making sure that you renovate your core around this, the new behaviors. That's still, that's, well, let's put it this way. If I were in charge, that's what I would do.
Excellent, thank you. Next question is for Louisa. How can the material be bio-based and have recycled content? And how is it disposed of? Decomposed after or recycled if it's got both elements in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, the materials, considering that they are polymers, polyethylene or polypropylene, the way of disposing them afterwards will be the same. Of course, if we are doing monomaterial structures, they will be able to be fully recycled back again, so they will be able to come back into mechanical recycling again or chemical recycling as well. And yeah, the polymer structure is still the same, so they are still polyethylene and polypropylene. And in regards to the combination of both aspects, I would be glad to touch on that separately with you. I think it was Andrew that asked. Andrew, I would be glad to present you deeper information on our solutions if you're interested.
Excellent. And the last question, which is for Horst, which is, can the carton board, for example, for McDonald's be recycled even if it is contaminated with food?
Yes, absolutely. Contaminated carton board can be recycled. The only thing is, if it's really heavily contaminated with food, it should not be used for a food package afterwards. Therefore, yes, it can be recycled. No, it cannot be recycled to be used again for a food packaging. That's quite clear.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And thank you to all three of our speakers today. I hope you've enjoyed our first Brand Owner and Retailer Summit webinar series. The next one is 2 weeks today, Wednesday the 17th of June, at the same time, 2 o'clock British Summer Time. Thank you very much for your attention. We will, as I say, we will get all the outputs out to you over the next 4 hours or so, including any unanswered questions as well. So thank you all very much for your time, and I will now close this webinar.